Mo. Bun down is the sound. You know how we do. This is, of course, the Lounge Presents podcast. We're live streaming on Twitch right now, and we're on demand on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. This evening in the lounge space, the lounge space is blessed this evening. We've got a very special guest. We've got someone who has a lot to tell us about a book that they had written. So right about now, let's introduce into the lounge space Seth Neblett.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hey,
Thank you.
give him his proper. So, Seth Neblett, you authored a book called Mothership Connected,
Yes.
the Women of Parliament-Funkadelic. Uh,
Yes, I did.
we were definitely going to get into this because I feel like we're now in a time where a lot of these stories that get left behind in the lore
hmm
of a lot of these cultural time frames, we're now in a position where we can bring that now into the fore and people can see, there's so much more involved, in so many musical movements that we love. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So we always start off by asking our guests how they were introduced to whatever the topic is that we're talking about. But in your case, you were born into it.
Correct. Yes.
why don't
Definitely.
you why don't you let them know who your parents are?
All right. My mother is singer Mallia Franklin, known as the Queen of Funk in the entertainment industry, and my father was a drummer, pretty successful studio and live drummer by the name of Nate Neblett, who started out with a group called the Nightlighters, which later became the New Birth.
New birth, hell yeah.
Yeah.
Sick. Yeah, so you were born into it. So we don't even
Yes.
have to ask how you were introduced to music and
Yeah.
the industry, obviously, in general. But what we can do is take it a little further and ask you something along the lines of what was it like growing up with two such influential members of the canon, our music canon?
It was interesting in the fact that my mother and father split when I was pretty young. Um, and I was pretty much raised by my grandparents, my mother's mother and father, and they were into politics. They were political. They were politicians. They were union leaders, things like that. So I had this kind of strange world where I had this very kind of structured political life with my grandparents, and then with my mother, it was a very different life. Bootsy Collins is my godfather,
Hey.
and my life with her was like Sugarfoot from the Ohio Players was my babysitter, kind of stuff.
Oh, God damn. We,
So,
we, we got to
so
pause for a second. You
yeah,
realize you just said that Bootsy is your godfather, and
yes.
do you ever stop and hear yourself and go, wow, that's actually my life?
For me, it's a little different only because it's always been my life,
Yeah,
and
I
that's all
guess
I've ever
so.
known.
That's all you've known. Yeah, that makes total
Yeah,
sense.
that's all I've ever known. And Bootsy, who I actually just saw him a couple of months ago in LA, and he loves to tell me the story about how I was the first baby he ever held.
Hey.
And he's just such a special, special person to me. And yeah, so that's my
Yeah,
god
so
dad,
he's not
Uncle
Bootsy to
Bootsy.
you.
That's Uncle Bootsy, Uncle Boot.
Yeah,
That's what he
there
is
you
to me,
go.
Uncle Boot.
There
Yeah.
you go. Wow. When when you grow up in a musical household, uh,
hmm
the 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 influence that is you obviously are surrounded by oftentimes plays a part in your own future.
Yeah.
It's no surprise when we see the offspring of artists become artists themselves. I mean, when you grow up in it, it's right, like it's your world.
Yeah,
Did you consider uh, um, a career for yourself in music? Did you ever dabble in music yourself?
definitely. I
Okay.
actually had a proposed record deal with LaFace back in 1990. First
Okay.
record.
What?
Mhm. Yeah, it's a part of
Okay.
my story. Yeah, at the time I was in a duo. It was myself and a best friend of mine who was a female singer. And interestingly enough, she worked with a guy who was Babyface's brother-in-law.
Okay.
He was the brother of Babyface's first wife,
Okay.
not Tracy Edmonds, but the
Right.
girl from when he was, in the deal and trying
Yeah.
to become Babyface.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
wife.
Yeah.
And so LaFace at the time had just gotten their production deal. They weren't an official record label yet, but they had their cousins, uh, twins, Derek and Dwayne Ladd, with their A&R scouts, and they were trying to find talent for LaFace. And
Okay.
kind of had a plan that they wanted their first three acts to be a solo male, a solo female, and a male female duet,
Mm.
which me and my friend fit in that male female duet situation.
Okay.
So we got this guy a demo and got him a picture, and he got it to the Ladd brothers at LaFace. And about a month or so later, I got a call from the Ladd brothers, and they basically said, and this is how the music business is. They say we want you, but we don't want your friend.
Mm-hmm.
We want you as a solo artist.
Mm-hmm.
And I never could really give a real yes or no because I was 18. I was kind of insecure. I felt I needed
Yeah.
that other person.
Yeah.
And I wasn't really 100% sure about the situation. They had signed a female singer by the name of Sony, and they had her in the studio, and she was doing some things. And so I had some back and forth. I never got a chance to meet Babyface or LA. And I think that if I had, it probably would have cemented the deal only because of Babyface's, for music people that know, Babyface's connection to Bootsy.
Mm-hmm.
Bootsy is actually the person that gave him the name Babyface.
Yeah.
And if I had gotten to Babyface in LA and said, hey, I'm Mallia Franklin's son from Parliament-Funkadelic, and
Yeah.
Bootsy's my godfather, and all of this, things might have been different, but that's not what
Right.
happened.
Right.
So, anyway, the deal didn't happen. Uh, and, because even though I was young, I came from a musical background.
Exactly.
So when somebody's like, "Oh, okay, well, we're going to give you some agreements to look at," it's like, "Okay, well, I'm going to have my lawyer look at them." Lawyer? You're 18 with a lawyer? We got a lawyer in the family. Excuse me, So it really didn't happen. And what ended up happening was Sony never came out, and the group that they did get was the girl guy duo, which was a group called Damien Dame.
Damien Dame, yeah.
And Damien Dame was the very first group or product on LaFace Records.
Yep. Yep.
And, it's so funny because people often have asked me, do you think that was a mistake? And I really don't think it was a mistake,
Mm-hmm.
only because I look at kind of like what happened with those first artists, and really nothing
Yeah.
happened
Yeah.
with those first artists. This was not the LaFace of TLC and Tony
Right.
Braxton, and
Yeah.
this was the very, very
The proto
infantile
years.
version of
Yeah.
LaFace. So, I could have signed my life away, and nothing ever happened. So,
Yeah.
you know, the universe does what it's going to do.
Exactly though, right? I
Yeah,
mean, things happen so
yeah,
that other things can happen,
that's right. That's right.
right?
It just wasn't meant for me. That wasn't my journey.
Yeah.
But it almost was my journey. It almost was.
That's some nice lore to have in your history there.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, you are a creator yourself.
Yes. Mhm.
Uh, I didn't even realize that you were the co-host for Apollonia's podcast.
Yes, that's
I was
me.
like, wait a minute, this is
Yeah,
the same guy.
yeah, yeah, that's me. Mr. Seth, as she calls me, Mr. Seth. Yes.
There you go. So
Yeah.
obviously, you're still in the business, you're
Hmm.
still in the industry, and you have been. I've looked into some of the things you've done. You obviously still a hand in the business, just from another vantage point, really.
Yeah, different perspective, definitely.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Now, when the initial origins, the first drafts started to form for this book, how
Hmm.
far back are we talking about?
This book actually started, this version of this book actually started around 2005, 2006.
Okay.
And it was a book that was created really out of necessity.
Mm,
Um, what happened was that in 2003, I was introduced by my mother's attorney to a documentary director by the name of Paul Justman. And Paul Justman had just done a acclaimed documentary called Standing in the Shadows of Motown about the Funk Brothers.
oh, okay, yeah, yeah.
Mhm. And he was very interested in his second project being the Women of Parliament-Funkadelic because it kind of fit in the it fit the brand. You know, it was
Yeah.
like, yeah, it was like Funk Brothers, Detroit,
Yeah.
1960s, and here we are, 1970s, Parliament Funkadelic
Yep.
women. So me and Paul became really good friends, and Paul shopped the idea for probably about a year or so to production companies, and nobody was really biting. It seemed like nobody really cared at that point about the story. But Paul knew just from the conversations I had had with him and his initial conversations with the women, he knew that there was something very special here. So after about a year of him not being successful with shopping it as a documentary, he said, Seth, I think you're going to need a book. He said, even Standing in the Shadows started out as a book and then became a documentary.
Very cool.
So the focus shift, and now it was time to try to do a book. And in the beginning, I was not set to be the writer of the book. We were actually talking to writers, people that had done stuff before,
Right.
about being the possible writer of the book. And probably at that time, for probably about 10 years, this is kind of how I got into the other phase of entertainment business, kind of like the management and other phases.
Yeah.
Is my first foray into management was dealing with my mother and some of the other Parlet members, Shirley Hayden and Jeanette Washington of Parlet. I
Right.
tried to put together a Parlet reunion for Japan in 1994, and that
Okay.
was kind of the beginning. Then I started working with Dawn Silva. I still had a very close relationship with Lynn Mabry of Brides of Funkenstein. So
Okay.
they had always been in my life.
Yeah.
And I was always trying to make something happen for them.
Okay.
And so, so we were going back and forth with writers, and just nobody was the right fit. And so I moved from we had myself and Don Silva had started doing some work because we had an opportunity to possibly get a book deal with a really reputable agent in New York.
Okay.
So around 2004, Dawn flew to Detroit, where I was living at the time, and we created basically a proposal, like these little sample chapters, these dummy chapters, so that
Yeah.
this book agent could get an idea. So I had done some work, and then just over my years of working with the women, I knew a lot of the stories already. And then, of course, with my mother, I knew a lot of her journey. So I moved to LA in 2006, and my mother and I had dinner with Bootsy. And I was kind of bitching and moaning about how, we're trying to get this book done and they're sending the wrong people and we can't
Yeah.
find the right person. And Bootsy said, you do it. And I was like, I'm not a writer. He said, you're smart. He said, you know all the people. They'll trust you and be honest with you, and you'll know when somebody's bullshitting you.
Yeah.
That began my journey to interviewing, transcribing, and all of that. And it took, I'll say, starting 2006, probably till 2019, I probably finally put it down to where I just said, I can't do this anymore. I just,
Yeah.
because I was always turning over a stone and finding a new piece to the puzzle,
Yeah.
so
I'm
I had to
sure.
put it down. So it was a long journey.
When you were writing the book
Hmm.
and essentially like re-experiencing some things and experiencing other things for the first time, was it difficult for you? Did it feel like this is like the pressure of being the one to tell the story? Did you ever feel that?
I think I did until my mother passed away in 2010
Mm,
at 57.
mm,
When she died, I had a whole new mission
yeah,
to get it done.
there it is right there.
And I couldn't go on fear. I couldn't go on anything because, see, I'm a guy that, you know, I have receipts for everything. I record
Mm,
everything. Um, every interview that I did for that book was either on audio or video. Um, and I just wasn't going to be fearful of it. I just had to finish it. And if for nobody else, I had to finish it for her. So, she was living when this whole thing started. And, losing her, losing Debbie Wright, another Parlet member, losing Gary Scheider, who gave me a lot for the
mm-hmm,
book, P-Funk guitarist, losing
mm-hmm,
Ron Dunbar, P-Funk producer, losing Belita Woods, losing Bernie Worrell,
mm-hmm.
losing Ron Ford, another P-Funk producer. These were all people that I had interviewed for the book.
Wow.
And and you know, it was important for my mother's story and the women that did participate, their stories. It was important to get their stories out there, but it was also important to um, not leave the voices behind of the people that have gone on, that gave me their voice and gave me their
Yeah.
story to put in this book. So
Yep.
it was a whole new determination. When my mother passed away, it was a whole new determination, and nobody was going to stop
Makes total sense.
me. Yeah,
That if anything, that would just fuel you further.
yeah, definitely.
There
Nobody was
you
going to
go.
stop
There you go. I love it. I love it.
me. Yeah.
Now, let's for people who aren't may not be as familiar with Parlet. Let's just break down who the members of Parlet were.
Yeah. Parliament-Funkadelic, as we know, is a collective of many people. One segment of that collective was a group of women. Um, Originally, it kind of built as time went on. When Parliament-Funkadelic went on the legendary Mothership Connection tour in 1976, George Clinton added two female members, the very first two female members of the group, which were two women, Debbie Wright and Jeanette Washington. Now, Debbie Wright had been singing on Parliament-Funkadelic stuff since the early 70s, along with my mother, Mallia Franklin. And if my mother had still been in Detroit and had not moved to LA when the Mothership Connection tour happened in 76, it probably would have been Debbie Wright and Mallia Franklin, would have been the girls.
Yeah.
But it was Debbie Wright and Jeanette Washington. And then about 5 months into the tour, George picked up two more female singers that were background singers for Sly and the Family Stone. He picked up Lynn Mabry and Dawn Silva. And then maybe about 6 months after Lynn and Dawn came, when he was ready to take this group of women and break them off into their own sectors, their own groups, and get them record deals, his vision was to have a duo and a trio. So he was one girl short. So he did the whip around, came to LA and took my mother. And he said, you're the missing link. And I'm bringing you back in and let's go do this.
Hey.
So 1977, all the women were part of the group. And my mother, Mallia Franklin, Debbie Wright, and Jeanette Washington became a group called Parlet. And Lynn Mabry and Dawn Silva became the Brides of Funkenstein.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. If there's one question I had about like Parlet dropped two records, two full
Mm-hmm.
lengths.
3, actually.
Oh right. If
Yeah,
you
the
yeah, that's
third
right.
is never
The third one
really
came out a little bit
popular.
later.
Yeah.
Yeah, damn. Totally forgot about
Yeah.
that.
Mm-hmm.
But for the second one, was your mother not involved in the full recording of the second one?
She recorded 4 of the 6 songs on that album.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, she recorded the majority of the album.
Yeah.
And the young lady that replaced her, Janice Evans, did the last 2 songs.
And what led to that replacement?
Parlet kind of had a hard way to go getting
Mm,
out of the gate.
yeah.
They lost Debbie Wright a month after the first album came out. They
Mm,
lost her to mental illness. She went
mm,
paranoid schizophrenic from using
mm.
angel dust on the road.
Oh, damn.
And so the first maybe 3 or 4 months that Parlet should have been out promoting their album, they were actually looking for a third girl because Debbie was gone.
Yeah.
And at that time, as we're not talking about a time when there was like MTV and stuff like that. You had to be
Exactly.
going to record stores, you had to be going to radio stations, you had to be doing album signings. That was you had to be doing interviews in magazines. That's the way that you got promoted.
Yep.
And unfortunately, with everything that happened with Debbie, Parlet unfortunately got a kind of a rough start.
Yeah.
They did end up finding a replacement, a woman by the name of Shirley Hayden, who was featured in this book as well. So
Yeah.
as well as Debbie Wright. And Shirley came in, and the other factor of why Parlet kind of got the short end of the stick was because my mother had known George since she was 14 years old.
Whoa.
Yeah. And
Whoa.
George was very close to our family. George
Mhm.
lived with our family for a year while he was trying to get things up and going before,
Okay.
everything was happening.
Yeah.
So our family and George had a very tight-knit relationship.
Yeah.
When my mother did Pleasure Principle, the first Parlet album, she just was not getting paid correctly.
Mm.
And it started becoming an issue.
Yeah.
And not only was my mother getting involved, but my grandmother, who was very close to George and who was pretty much acting as my mother's business manager when none of the people in Parliament-Funkadelic had anything like a manager outside of
Oh.
George's management.
Yeah.
Here's Mallia with a business manager who's defending her and essentially defending Parlet. And I think the organization, I'm not going to say George specifically, but I'm going to say the organization started looking at Parlet as a problem because they wanted to get paid. And there was somebody in there fighting for them and saying, you promised this, you promised this, you promised this, and you haven't delivered on your promises. So it turned the organization off. It turned some of the higher ups in the organization off.
Mm.
And so not a lot was done. It wasn't the same vigor as they had done for the Brides of Funkenstein. But I will also say that when the Brides of Funkenstein album came out, the brides were ready. They weren't missing any members. They were ready to go.
Yeah.
So I think between Debbie doing her thing, I think, with my mom being the squeaky wheel, and I also think with their first single not really being that much of a hit.
Mm-hmm.
And that was really because Casablanca Records, which was the record company they were on, was really a disco label.
Yeah.
And their first single, Pleasure Principle, George was, I want to say, kind of instructed to give them a disco funk sound.
Mm.
But I don't think the fans could really latch on to it
Yeah.
because it was funky, but it wasn't P
But
Funk.
yeah.
You know what I mean? And P Funk
Yep.
is the expectation.
Yep.
And so I think that if the girls had, if another single had been released like Love Amnesia or Cookie Jar, which were very, very funky, funky songs,
Oh yeah.
Parlet probably would have done a whole different, it would have been a different trajectory for them. So
It's
it was a
funny.
mishmash of things.
It's funny that you mentioned Cookie Jar.
Hmm.
There's very some diehard fans may be aware, but the general music fan may not be. But there's a bit of a connection between Cookie Jar and Prince. Why don't you tell them about that?
Yes. Prince actually did a version of Cookie Jar that is kind of a legendary bootleg
Yep.
in the Prince
Dope
universe.
bootleg. Yep.
Uh-huh. And
Yep.
I remember getting one of those bootleg
Hell yeah.
cassette tapes from one of the record stores that
Yep.
sold like the bootleg cassette tapes.
Yep.
And I heard Cookie Jar and I was shocked. But funny enough, actually the story, there's a kind of a story in the book Mothership Connected of my mother having a conversation with Prince and him talking about doing Cookie Jar and how big of an influence Parlet specific had on him.
Oh,
Yeah.
dope.
Yeah.
Dope. I mean, it's not the only connection to Prince either. I
Mm-mm.
mean, she worked on TC Ellis's record,
Yep.
worked on Maserati's record.
Yep. She was in
uh,
Graffiti Bridge.
she was in Graffiti Bridge.
Yep. She was in Graffiti. Bless her. I remember when I went to see Graffiti Bridge because I went to the theater. Because
Yeah.
she didn't know. She didn't know if she had been cut out. She didn't know what the final, result was.
Yeah.
And I went to the theater and I saw her and she was big as day. I mean, all over the screen. And I remember sitting there and I was like, oh my God, it's my mom. And
Yeah.
I called her afterwards and she said, was I in it? Or did I end up on the cutting room floor? I said, oh, you were in it. I said, I think they probably showed you more than they showed George, actually. And she said, really? I said, yeah. I said, but mom, it was a terrible movie. It was horrible. It was horrible. And I'm a Prince fan. You have to
Yeah,
understand.
but we all know.
Oh
we
my
accept we
God.
accept it for what it is.
We accept it for what it is.
Did she get on set because she was there with George?
Yeah, what Prince wanted her in the movie because
Oh, what?
that's not her voice. That's not her voice on the song. That's Belita Wood's voice on the song We Can Funk.
Okay.
But Prince specifically told George, I want Mallia in the movie.
Oh shit. Oh.
Yes. That story's in the
Damn.
book. He specifically told George,
Damn.
I want Mallia in the movie. So even though Belita Woods is on the song, my mother is in the movie. And that was per Prince's request.
You must be so proud of your moms.
I am, it's crazy how, when a person is here, you see things in a different lens when a person is here. And then when
Yeah.
they go, at least in my case, when my mom went and I was still doing this book and researching this book and talking to people and really finding out, that she was that girl. And I mean, she was that girl as far as connecting a lot of people, making a
Mhm.
lot of things happen,
Mhm.
uh,
Mhm.
things that changed popular music. Thing that so many people don't know that she's the one that introduced Roger Troutman to Dr. Dre,
Yep.
which
Yep.
brought forth Tupac, California Love.
Yep.
that was a connection she did. And it was so interesting because I did another podcast maybe about 2 or 3 weeks ago. And I
Okay.
was talking about that. And they actually found some tape audio from Roger when he was still living, saying that him and Dre had this mutual friend, Mallia Franklin, and she
Oh,
put
wow.
them together and said, so it's all about receipts. You know what I mean? And I had never
Seriously.
heard that. And when I heard
Wow.
that, they found that, and I heard that, and I said, it's just that receipt. You know what I mean? That it's
Wow.
not just her saying it, you know, it's Roger saying, yes, Mallia Franklin found me and said, Dr. Dre wants to talk to you.
Exactly.
Yes.
Man, I alluded to it before we went live about how important it is that you wrote this book
Hmm.
because we're now finally in a time where a lot of these stories that have, been either obscured intentionally or just, you know, not given as much proper shine
Right.
as it should have in the first place. We're now in a time where these stories can be told and people can see. We've covered this topic on this show previously about the participation of women in hip hop
Hmm.
and how in the early years of hip hop there were a lot of women involved, but they don't get mentioned with the Cool Hercs or the
Right.
Flashes or you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's the
So
misogyny of the music business.
exactly,
Mhm.
exactly. And I'm just glad now we're in the time where people can see, you know, how many women were very, very integral to the success
Definitely.
of a lot of, like I previously said, our canon,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
It's true.
I really salute you for doing this book, and it's so important.
Thank you.
It's an integral part of the canon, and people need to know. You know what I mean? Because P Funk is, I mean, come on, it's P Funk. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
It's
Eh,
Parliament-Funkadelic, man. And
exactly.
yeah. And one thing that I always say about this story is that, and maybe because I was in it to a degree and witnessed a lot of stuff myself, uh, I've had so many people that have said to me, including uh, one of the people who was a uh, woman that was supposed to possibly be the writer of this book
Hmm.
20 years ago,
Hmm.
that had a really good relationship with the Women of Parliament-Funkadelic. And she read the book and she texted me and she said, you were destined to write this book. You had to write this
Hey,
book.
there you go.
She said, now I understand.
There
Now that
you
I've
go.
read it, I understand that you were destined to write this book.
Exactly.
So, I mean, hey, you don't know how the universe is going to turn, because I'm going to tell you, I had absolutely no intention of being a writer, being an author, that was not, I did not see that as my goal. I didn't see that as anything that was going to be a part of my life.
Yeah.
But, I mean, the fact that now I have a book that was number 1 on Amazon for 2 weeks,
Yes.
R&B,
Yes.
and
Yes. I'm glad you mentioned that because I was just about to.
it's crazy. It's bananas. It's bananas.
That's
And
awesome.
it's like every day I'm having somebody either DM me or post something on social media, and they're like, you have to get this book. You have to read this book. A really well-respected music historian, Marcus Chapman, who I've known on Facebook pretty much for the past 20 years. And he's always been asking me for the past probably 5 years, when is this book coming out? When is this book coming out?
Right, right.
And he finally got the book, and he posted on Facebook yesterday. He said, I just finished this book and it was worth the 20-year wait.
Hey, there you go.
So these kind of things happening around me just tells me that, your destiny is your destiny is going to be what your destiny is, and the universe
Exactly.
keep universing.
Yeah. That's it doesn't get any more straight than that. You know
Yeah,
what I'm saying?
yeah,
That is a straight up and down truth.
yeah,
God damn.
yeah.
Well, yo, Seth, I really want to thank you for spending time with us in the lounge space this evening.
No problem.
Um, I'm glad that this book is out there because as I already said, I feel it's really important for a
Thank
lot of
you.
these stories to be told
Thank
now,
you.
especially while some are alive, and or at least
Yes.
in this case, at least alive to see that their stories were about to be told.
Yes, and I want to thank the women that were, I want to thank everybody that was a part of the book. George Clinton, Sly Stone, rest in peace, Bootsy Collins, and everybody else. But I definitely want to thank Cheryl James, who was a road manager who gave a lot of herself in this book. And also the main five participants, because it's not every woman that was a partlet or a bride.
Right.
But but I approached all of them. Some of them didn't want to do it for their own personal reasons, but
Yeah.
I have to give shout outs to my mom, Mallia Franklin, and Debbie Wright,
Yeah.
rest in peace. And I have to give shout outs to Shirley Hayden of Parlet and Lynn Mabry, Dawn Silver of the Brides of Franklin,
Hell yeah.
for trusting
Hell
me.
yeah. So dope. So
Thank
dope.
you.
Well, thank you again, Seth. And you know what? I hope we can get you back on because
Anytime.
I'd love to talk
Anytime.
about your pod.
Anytime. Let's do it. Anytime. You just
Okay.
let me know. I'll come back.
Okay, sweet. Yeah, let's do that. All right.
Okay.
Mothership Connected. The book is out now. Get it online. Get it in your local bookstore.
Okay.
Seth is out and about promoting the book.
Yeah. I'm in
Uh,
Atlanta now in a hotel room.
there you go. See what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Out there
Yeah.
hustling that book as should be.
Yes.
There you go. Thank you again. And yes, we're most definitely going to get you back on the show. Okay.
All right. Anytime you let me know.
All right. Be easy.
Okay.
Peace.
All right. Bye bye.